order of business. This would be a change in our parliamentary practice. At 4:30, Bill 208 is sponsored by the member for Edmonton Glengarry, will be dealt with by the Assembly, an act to amend the Public Service Employee Relations Act. This evening at 8 o'clock, the House will reconvene and meet till probably 10 or 10:30, dealing with Heritage Savings Trust Fund estimates, Capital Projects Division. Let us pray. O Lord, we give thanks for the bounty of our province, our land, our resources, and our people. We pledge ourselves to act as good stewards on behalf of all Albertans. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions, reading and receiving petitions, presenting reports by standing and special committees, notices of motions, introduction of bills, tabling returns and reports.
Member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to table copies of a directive from an insurance company to insurance agents in this province outlining highly restrictive and in fact almost discriminatory policy program practices, that is, practices for determining who they will insure and who they will not insure.
Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to finally file a final report on Team Alberta. Their participation at the Canada Games in 1991 at Prince Edward Island. 4 copies.
Additional filings.
Introduction of special guests.
Minister of Economic Development and Trade, followed by Clover Barr.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you today and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly 13 members from the Sherwood Park Nursing Home in our constituency of Sherwood Park. They're joined by Mrs. Daphne Sutton. They're in the members gallery, and I would ask so that we could extend them a very warm welcome to this Legislative Assembly.
Clover Barr, followed by Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and the members of the Assembly 31 guests from the St. Luke's School in the constituency of Clover Bar. As a matter of fact, they're neighbors of mine. They're right close to my home. It's a pleasure to welcome them here today. The students are accompanied by Miss Garris and Ms. Brinkman. I would ask that the teachers and students rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Career Development and Employment.
The Quebec-Alberta Student Employment Exchange Program was introduced to post-secondary students in 1979, at which time 5 students participated from each province. Today, the program is expanded to include a total of 90 students with 45 from each province. Of the 45 students selected from each province, one is the group leader who acts as a liaison between the students and program staff. Mr. Speaker, today we're fortunate to have in the members gallery this year's group leader, Mr. Guy St. Pierre, accompanied by the program administrator from my department, Francis Arneri-Pelas. I welcome Guy and his group to Alberta and will ask him and Francis to rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly. Mr. Speaker, while I'm on my feet, I'd like to take the privilege to introduce through you and to you to members of the gallery a group of 15 young women from the Greeley Road School located in the constituency of Fort McMurray. They're accompanied by teachers Mrs. Caroline Dozman, Secretary Mrs. Bev Price, and I must say, Mr. Speaker, I've had the privilege of knowing this young lady for many years. They're seated in the public gallery. I'd ask them to rise and receive the cordial welcome to this assembly.
Member for Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly 11 grade 10 students from the Dr. Falcons Community School in Chauvin in our Wainwright constituency. They are seated in the members gallery, and I would ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Give me 2 copies of that, please. Xerox. Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a rare pleasure for me to introduce a second group this week to you, Mr. Speaker, and to members of the Assembly. Today from the constituency of Calgary Northwest, we've got a group of 25 eager and keen grade 6 students from the St. Vincent de Paul School located in Varsity Community. With them are teachers Mr. Patrick McMillan, Mr. Abraham, Mrs. Koo, and Mrs. Smith. I'd ask them to rise in the public gallery and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Additional? Carry on.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Family and Social Services. Mr. Speaker, we recall yesterday we had a discussion about the increasing usage of people needing the food bank, especially in Calgary, and a shocking 14% increase in Edmonton for April alone. The reaction from the government, from the Premier, was that I shouldn't have mentioned it because it may cause the whole economy to collapse, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the reaction from this government to the growing ranks of those whose meager social allowance benefits are insufficient to feed them, we're not sure, Mr. Speaker. But now we found out, and I'd like to file with this Assembly a copy of a letter written yesterday by the Edmonton Social Planning Council to the Provincial Director of Income Support Services. Mr. Speaker, after meeting with the Director, this letter indicates that the province is going to strictly interpret its policy so that the department will cut down on the number of emergency food vouchers given to those in need. My question to the Minister is this. At the risk of destroying Alberta's fragile confidence in the best economy in the universe, why is this government bringing in this blame the victims policy when there is an increase in people needing this service?
Mr. Speaker, absolutely not to blame the victims policy. This government has gone to great lengths in recent months, Mr. Speaker, to enhance our social programs. We've increased our shelter rates. We've increased our food rates and put an emphasis on food for children in particular. We do have an emergency voucher system in place, Mr. Speaker, and we expect it to be applied fairly and equitably across the province. Mr. Speaker, I'd point out that there's also an appeal process, that any individual that's on social allowance that isn't satisfied with the level of support that they're receiving has that right to go to a citizens appeal panel to have their situation heard fully and satisfactorily, and they'll make the final decision, Mr. Speaker.
Clearly a change in government policy, and it is a blame the victim policy. Mr. Speaker, this government gets worried about what they perceive as abuse from the poor. Well, they hand out millions of dollars to their corporate friends, and they don't worry about that when it goes bad. Now, Mr. Speaker, given the fact that the emergency food allowance is a staggering $14 a month per child and an astronomical $22 per month for an adult, doesn't the minister know that the department could well end up spending more money on screening recipients than it would on issuing vouchers to those who need them?
Mr. Speaker, I don't think that's a reasonable conclusion to make. Again, we take the time to meet with clients that need our help. I've outlined some of the increases that we've just announced. I've announced some of the services that we're providing. But further to that, Mr. Speaker, we also work with them to help them gain their independence, help them become meaningfully employed. I think the leader would agree with me that for the most part, what these people want is the opportunity to gain the necessary skills or to take the skills that they have and apply them in the workforce. We're going to continue to help them to be able to do that, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, there is a change in policy. The Social Planning Council is well aware of it. They've written a letter complaining about it, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
And it is going to put hardship on these people, Mr. Speaker. And as indicated in the letter, there's no legitimacy to their claims, Mr. Speaker. It's not thought out. And it's a change in the policy. 2 years ago, the regional director at that time saw fit to provide food vouchers to clients forced to go to the food bank. And now the new regional director is reversing this policy. And this is going to add more pressure on the food banks, Mr.
Right.
Speaker. My question is to the minister is this. Given that it is his department's responsibility, clear responsibility for providing for people's basic needs, how can the minister justify offloading its clients to the food bank instead of providing them with emergency food vouchers?
Right.
Mr. Speaker, let me say a few things because I think it's important to set the record straight. One is we will continue to make emergency vouchers available to those that genuinely need them. Two, Mr. Speaker, I don't think this member should sit there so sanctimoniously talking about food banks, because if we listen to this member, Mr. Speaker, we wouldn't have a Gainers plant still operating. We'd have 1,200 more people from there in the lineups at the food bank. If we listen to this member, Mr. Speaker, we wouldn't have an LPAC and the thousands of jobs that that's creating. We'd have those people in the lineups. Mr. Speaker, what we'd have is a situation like they have in Ontario, where hundreds of thousands of jobs are being lost. And they're turning to food banks in the droves, Mr. Speaker. That's what his comrades are doing down in Ontario.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition. Second main question.
Yeah, I'd like to have that $1.3 billion in corporate welfare that we wasted to put into the food banks, Mr. Speaker. The darn rights we would, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, yes, from the Treasurer, he'd like it back too, Mr. Speaker. But my question is to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. Let's move from the government's treatment of the needy to its rather different approach to its friends, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we all know that cutting secret deals from behind closed doors with its friends is nothing new from this government. We only need to recall the awarding of the Kananaskis golf course along with millions of taxpayers' dollars to the Premier's old football chums as an example of this unjustifiable practice. But now, Mr. Speaker, in another case that smacks of secrecy and favoritism, we see yet another example of a decision to award a crown lease in Kananaskis country to a developer with a cozy relationship with the Premier and other members of the government, and they're going to have a resort in health spa, Mr. Speaker. Really crucial. Now, my question to the Premier is this. Will the Premier explain why his government has awarded rights to a crown land from behind closed doors to a friend of his government, Mr. Rudy Schmidt, without ever notifying the public so that Albertans could express their opinions on this development or tender the project themselves, Mr. Speaker?
Right on.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader of the opposition shouldn't believe everything he reads in the newspaper. I've never met Mr. Schmidt, and to take that kind of research is just nonsense. I might say, Mr. Speaker, that the proposal development for Kananaskis country is consistent with the Kananaskis policy, and the Minister of Recreation and Parks may wish to supplement my answer.
Asking you, Mr. Speaker, you may not have met the man. The Premier sends love letters to him, though, Mr. Speaker, so obviously he knows him. And that's who the question was going to, Mr. Speaker. And I want to come back to the Premier because it has to do with code of ethics and
Right.
responsibility in this government, Mr. Speaker. And I want to ask again the Premier. Will the Premier tell us, because he leads the government, why the negotiations and the decision to award the crown lease for this project were conducted in secret? What is the government trying to hide?
Right on.
Mr. Speaker, I have no idea what the honourable leader of the opposition is talking about. We're not secretive about anything. There's been a proposal there for some time. It'll have to go through the process that's clearly defined. And, Mr. Speaker, part of that would be, of course, public consultation. So, Mr. Speaker, unless he can be more definitive, the Minister of Recreation and Parks may wish to supplement with respect to the public involvement and the public consultation that will take place.
And answer the questions anyhow. You don't know what's going on. I ask him to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. ask about Rudy Schmidt, but we'll turn over to our friend, the protector of the environment, Mr. Speaker, for the third question, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, the spokesman for Kananaskis has informed us that this project will require the construction of 1 kilometer of road, installation of all utilities, and other environmental intrusions. I would point out, Mr. Speaker, that the developer plans ultimately to double the facility side and add 20 chalets throughout the property, or throughout this property. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister, given that this project is a little bigger than a doghouse, and also that is to be located in one of Alberta's prime environmental and recreational areas, will the Minister tell us why he won't do the job here and require a proper environmental impact assessment?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member assumes quite a bit. His one assumption, though, is quite correct. I do think that I'm the protector of the environment, and that's a correct assumption. But I understand what we have before us is a proposal that indeed is in its embryo stage. Someone has brought to my colleague, the Minister of Tourism, or perhaps the Minister of Recreation and Parks, or the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, an idea, a concept, and it's under review. When that proposal becomes a reality, if it becomes a reality, then we will do an environmental screening. We will make a determination at that time if it will be subjected to a full-blown environmental impact assessment. And under the rules of the NRCB, if in fact it is subjected to an environmental impact assessment, it will have to go before the Natural Resources Conservation Board for a full and complete environmental review. And through that process, we will indeed be protecting the environment.
Very briefly.
This proposal is not unlike many proposals that come before recreation parks in many of our areas throughout the province. And this does go before certain review. The Kananaskis Country Citizen Advisory Committee reviewed this proposal on April 18th, 1989, had no objections, and found that it was consistent with the original resource management, integrated resource management plan for Kananaskis Country. We have had other proposals that come forward, and they are given options to lease, subject to stringent perusal of their proposals, including the environmental tests. Some of those proposals fall off the deadline and disappear. This one here has been given some extension, but to date has not met the tests that were put before it, and we'll await to see what the proponents do. But this is consistent with policies throughout our recreational lands in the province of Alberta. And
thank you, Honourable. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Edmonton Glengarry. Order.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Honourable Honourable Treasurer. Mr. Speaker, Moody's, an international rating agency, assessed the books of the province of Alberta as at May the 2nd of this year. They concluded after that assessment that the actual debt of the province is some $14.73 billion. And that's almost $250 million increase since they assessed 6 months ago. Unbelievably, the Treasurer runs around Alberta telling Albertans that the debt is only $10 billion. Mr. Speaker, my first question is this. Based on the belief that it's harmful to hurt a fragile, I like that line, fragile economy, why does the Treasurer continue to try to cook the books and fool Albertans into believing that the debt is only $10 billion when it's $14.73 billion?
Speaker, there's clear reporting of the debt of the province of Alberta, and what we have reported in the public accounts and in the budget is in fact the standard approach to measuring debt. What I can say, Mr. Speaker, is that there are variations on that calculation. Some debt, for example, is funded on a utility basis, that it's guaranteed to be repaid. In the case of the City of Edmonton, that would be one of the examples. Other debt, for example, is
pledged against specific assets. Certainly the debt that we borrowed to ensure that the 9% Farm Credit Stability Program, which is being repaid by farmers, is part of that debt. And still further, Mr. Speaker, some rating agencies actually include the deposits in the Treasury branch as part of the Alberta government debt. So you can see that some of the classifications go from reasonable, and that's the position we presented to the people of Alberta in our budget, which confirms our debt just on the $11 billion level, and to other kinds of debt calculations, which would sweep in all kinds of liabilities. Now, the member can make the worst case, but the real facts of the matter, Mr. Speaker, with respect to debt is that the province of Alberta has the best debt record of any province in Canada. And moreover, today that was confirmed. That was confirmed today. The member mentions Moody. He mentions Moody's, Mr. Speaker. Guess what happened today in the province of Ontario? The province of Ontario was downgraded not one grade, Mr. Speaker, but 2 grades, Mr. Speaker. 2 grades. From a Mr. Speaker, this is important information. From a triple rating, Mr. Speaker, down to AA2. Alberta is now the best rated province in Canada. Now, who has responsibility?
Supplementary. Well, Mr. Speaker, we know that the NDP aren't serious about fiscal responsibilities. Calm down here. Mr. Speaker, the debt has gone from 10 billion just a short time ago to now 11 billion. And this is a rating agency that uses standard techniques to look at all of the governments of North America and the world. And it shows a huge debt. And when you couple that with the $9 billion unfunded pension liability, it's over $23 billion. Mr. Speaker, the question is, when are we going to see a plan? When are we going to see a plan to pay down both components, the 14.3 and the 9 billion? Where are the plans to pay these down?
Wow, Mr. Speaker, I can't believe that the member would ask that kind of a question. First of all, what government outside of Alberta has presented a plan to their population, more specifically defined, more clearly outlined, and committed and followed to in the province of Alberta? Now, I know that one of the Blues Brothers doesn't like to hear about the good news in Alberta and the fact that we have a balanced budget. The only province in Canada with a balanced budget, Mr. Speaker. And that plan is clear. Let me say the plan is this. We said we would reduce the deficit. We would not unload the taxes on the shoulders of the residents of the province as the Liberal Party and the NDP Party has done in Ontario, but we would look after it ourselves, Mr. Speaker, and then we'd start to reduce the debt. Alberta is the only province with more assets and liabilities. Now, just a minute ago, the leader of the Liberal Party from Glengarry said that the unfunded liability is $9 billion. Well, that's the kind of absolute garbage you hear from that member. That just is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong, Mr. Speaker. It's going to take us a longer time to convince them, but I'm not going to try and do it. Let me come back to the rating agencies again, Mr. Speaker, and here's the key thing. The world markets have looked at the provinces across Canada. Ontario has been downgraded by 2 bases, 2 major ratings, Mr. Speaker. Half of that must be the Liberal Party in Ontario, for which that member is one of the profligate spending groups in Canada, the Liberal parties across this province and across Canada, and half of it has to go to the Socialists now in place. Alberta has been reviewed by Moody's, Mr. Speaker, and has been confirmed, Mr. Speaker. It has been confirmed. We have the best credit rating of any province in Canada and the best borrowing opportunities in any capital market around the world. That's the way it is, Mr. Speaker.
Dick, you do a good job selling used cars. What a performance.
Mr. Speaker, just last week, the Liberal caucus attempted to press the government to come forward with a plan or a formula to pay down the unfunded pension liability. Incredibly, the spokesperson for the government said that the opposition had to prepare the formula or the plan. There is no plan. There is no plan. When, Mr. Treasurer, are we going to get the plan to pay down that unfunded pension liability? When?
It's been a bad day.
Mr. Speaker,
you see when a guy's having a bad day.
it is truly a bad day for a member from Glengarry. I'm reminded of my mother's words to me, Mr. Speaker, a long time ago. She said, "He who has little to say often repeats it." And that's exactly what we see here today, Mr. Speaker. That's exactly what we see here today. Mr. Speaker, we have said in this assembly before, not just members of the government, but specifically the Minister of Education, the Premier, and myself, have said that we are, in fact, in the process of completing a workout with respect to the pension liability. Pension liability, Mr. Speaker, is in fact a problem for all Albertans. We are taking a very careful look at it. The Minister of Education has already had some preliminary discussions with the Alberta Teachers Association because, in fact, that's the more critical element. And we are in the process of reviewing ways in which we can deal with a broad other set of plans that are before us. That'll be brought forward in the same careful, managed way as other policies are on behalf of this government. In the same way that we manage ourselves out of the deficit and brought the government of Alberta and the people of Alberta to a balanced budget and will go on to reduce the debt, we'll deal in the same effective manner with the pension liability, Mr. Speaker, and the people of Alberta know that full well.
Clover Bar.
To the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. With the recent opening of the Maskew Centre in Fort Saskatchewan, how is Alberta positioned in Canada and in the world with respect to the research and development of advanced industrial materials and the commercialization of such materials?
You guys won't like this. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure that the opposition will be able to take some more good news, but indeed this is exactly what the honourable member is raising, and I was very proud to participate along with the honourable member and in his constituency in Fort Saskatchewan to attend the opening of the new West Aim Research and Development Complex, which is part of a network of research facilities within this province that is bringing and putting Alberta at the very top in the area of research and development infrastructure. It's a model, Mr. Speaker, because it combines the private sector and two levels of government along with the research councils and the universities in a real cooperative partnership. And it goes on a project-by-project basis where peer groups will assess the technology, the research projects that are going forward, and it really is a model. The advanced industrial materials is an area, Mr. Speaker, that is very much a strength of Alberta, and polymers and composites and alloys, and that's the sort of opportunities that will exist through this new research facility.
To the same minister, Mr. Speaker, what impact will the West Aim project have on the local municipality? And I'm not just talking about the positive of additional employment opportunities. I'm talking about the responsibilities and obligations for services that rest with the municipality.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think it's certainly good news for the municipality, not just from the standpoint of the jobs that will be created at the time that it gets going, but into the future, because not only will it provide immediate jobs, it will provide new career opportunities for the children in that area to stay in that area, and indeed for the graduates of our post-secondary institutions. The president of the West Aim Initiative, Dr. Bob Weir, estimates that 300 scientists, engineers, and technologists will be employed in 1991, and that figure will grow to 500 in the next 5 years. He further estimates that the indirect impact on employment within that area will mean about, by the year 2000, combined employment through commercialization will result in more than 3,000 new jobs. So that's a significant area in which there will be growth in the honourable member's constituency and throughout Alberta.
Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When Alberta taxpayers inherited a defunct magnesium plant near High River, this government claimed the maximum exposure would be its $103 million guaranteed loan. Well, there are other creditors left in the lurch, Mr. Speaker, including the town of High River, who are owed $580,000 for servicing they provided to the plant. MagCan's owners, whoever they may be, have been leaning on the town to write off most of that debt. To the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, Mr. Speaker, given the Alberta government is taking control of this defunct plant, will the Minister assure the Assembly today that the province will pay in full its debt to the town of High River?
It's not the province. Mr. Speaker, that's the typical socialist philosophy whereby they want the government to do everything. We recognize that there is a difference of opinion as it relates to the town and the company, and there are methods in place to resolve that issue, and I understand they are going through that process of hopefully resolving what we consider a very important issue.
Well, Mr. Speaker, both the province and the town are claiming the same assets to cover their debts, so it looks like this government is choosing a collision course with the town on this issue. Mr. Speaker, the member for Smoky River got his picture in a weekly newspaper giving a $100,000 check to the MD of Smoky River to compensate for lost municipal taxation revenue on a defunct fertilizer plant near High Prairie. Would the minister explain a double standard of providing a $100,000 gift to one municipality for lost industrial assessment, while on the other hand refusing to pay the town of High River for outstanding utility bills?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member again is incorrect, and it's typical of the New Democratic Party whereby they persist in misinformation on a consistent basis. There is no double standard whatsoever. I just indicated to the honourable member that there is a process in place whereby hopefully this issue will be resolved. There's always plenty of time to look at other measures that might have to be put in place if that is required. But to suggest that should take place at this present time is totally ridiculous.
Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, school guidance counselors report that in Alberta, children who suffer the silent agony of sexual abuse are victims of a system that leave them stranded without long-term counseling after they report the abuse to their teachers. The system rightly requires that their claim of abuse be reported to child welfare authorities, but as a result, the children lose their privacy at school and often incur the wrath of their parents and siblings because of the intrusion of the system into their family and because the family was in denial.
That's awful.
To the Minister of Family and Social Services, considering that the system provides nothing more than immediate short-term counseling from a school guidance counselor, and that the child is under enormous pressure, psychological pressure, because the family may either not want to or may not be able to provide long-term counseling, would the minister make long-term counseling mandatory, and would his department consider paying for such counseling if the family cannot?
Mr. Speaker, there are a number of means that children and families can access counseling here in the province of Alberta. I'd first of all remind the member that we as the department have worked very closely with the Minister of Advanced Education, Minister of Health, with school board trustees, with school boards across this province, Mr. Speaker. We've put into place reasonable protocols. For the most part, they seem to be working very, very well in meeting the needs of children.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about shattered young lives here. This is a very serious gap in resources. To the minister, how can you pontificate that needs are being met when you know that if a family cannot pay, the only way they can get the service is by giving their child up to become a ward of the state?
Mr. Speaker, that just plain and simply isn't so. Certainly, through my department, if they are under a temporary guardianship order or a permanent guardianship order, then they become my responsibility, and I make sure that they get the kind of counseling and support that they need. But there are also, again, Mr. Speaker, I repeat, a number of agencies throughout the city of Calgary and throughout this province that provide those kinds of services. Some of them are made available, Mr. Speaker, on a fee-for-service basis. Some of them are graduated fees to be able to fit individual circumstances, and some have no fees at all.
Member for Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Agriculture. The good news of the proposed sale of the Lloydminster canola crushing plant is most welcome to the producers in eastern Alberta. The previous owners, United Grain Growers, closed down the plant 6 months ago, One of the reasons for the shutdown was they were not prepared to compete against the government-owned, government-operated, and government financing of a $5 million operating annual loss of the Sexsmith plant, of the Sexsmith crushing plant. Now, given that the government competition problem is still here, will the minister tell the House what his plans for the Sexsmith plant are?
Mr. Speaker, senior members of ADM, the firm that is almost closed the deal on the Lloydminster plant, met with myself and members of the department a few weeks ago. They were fully aware at the time of the Sexsmith operation and that Sexsmith would continue to operate. They've taken that into consideration in their decision making. They were fully briefed on the impact of the Western Grain Transportation Act and the negative impact that has on the operation. And you may recall that although UGG did blame our involvement in Sexsmith as one of their reasons for closing that plant, they blamed the Western Grain Transportation Act as a much more significant reason. So I welcome the sale and the fact that it would appear that the plant will remain in Lloydminster to serve people in the eastern part of the province.
When then is the minister going to put the Sexsmith plant up for sale?
Mr. Speaker, the minister will be prepared to recommend putting the Sexsmith plant up for sale at that point in time when it becomes a profitable operation and a serious operator from the private sector is prepared to take it and continue operating it to serve the producers of the North. And might I suggest to the House and maybe members on both sides that if we're successful in changing the method of payment, which currently works against value adding on the prairies, that with the removal of the tariffs on the flow of meal and oil into the USA, you will probably have a viable canola processing industry in Western Canada that many people will be interested in getting into.
Stony Plain. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that Alberta's education system is as bad as the minister indicated yesterday. Our schools and our teachers are excellent. But the minister uses the wrong method to measure achievement in grades 3, kindergarten to 3. ECS teachers are trained to teach children to think, but children don't get tested for the kind of knowledge that equips them for the future and reflects their school experience. To the Minister of Education, given that the professionals in the field have rightly concluded that the current grade 3 achievement test is narrow, unreliable, misleading, and does not provide accountability to students, teachers, parents, or government, when is the minister going to change the testing program to reflect Alberta Education's education program continuity policy by developing an ongoing contextual broad-based testing system for grade 3?
Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised that the member for Stony Plain would want to damn teachers across the province like he's doing, when he says that teachers, that our students in grades 1, 2, and 3, in particular in 3, are not getting tested as to their progress they're making. I put to the honourable member that teachers are in an ongoing way evaluating children's progress, and that's exactly what they should be doing, and I support their efforts to do just that. Mr. Speaker, we as well, as a provincial government, require students in grade 3 to be tested achievement tests, and I believe this year the grade 3 achievement test will be in mathematics, to assess not how individual students are doing, but to see how well students and how well schools, and in fact school boards, school jurisdictions are doing one versus another. And Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted with some of the response we've been getting from some teachers who value that kind of assessment because it's being used to help them to improve the quality of the teaching that they're providing to their children.
The minister wasn't listening. I did say the teachers are doing their jobs. It appears that the minister is out of touch with what the real needs of reporting student progress is.
It's clear that Alberta Education's method of imposing testing is wrong and certainly ineffective at the grade 3 level. Given that the current system is so ineffective, is the minister now prepared to work with parent groups, local school boards, and the Early Childhood Education Council of the Alberta Teachers Association to develop a meaningful method of testing based on observation and documentation?
Mr. Speaker, we are doing just that. The honourable member should know from his experience in schools that in this past year, May 1990, we went beyond the normal paper and pencil testing for grade 3 achievement tests and began assessing children's portfolios to look at the work that they've done, not just on that paper and pencil test on a given day in May of 1990, but looked at their previous work throughout the year. What the honourable member is saying, Mr. Speaker, consistent with his party's philosophy, is they don't want accountability. They don't want to measure children's progress or measure schools' progress against some standards that we have set out as a provincial government. And, Mr. Speaker, that's where we differ. We believe that Albertans investing $2.5 billion in our system of education in this province want accountability. They want to know whether our schools and our students are measuring up, and that is one important job that we must do as a provincial government, Mr. Speaker.
Edmonton Millwoods. Mr. Chairman, the frustration of injured workers with the Workers' Compensation Board in the province of Alberta manifests itself in many ways, whether it's campouts at the front of the legislature or protests in galleries, and sometimes, unfortunately, in even more tragic ways. But recently, the minister received a clear and well-documented case of administrative abuse of a client and his solicitor, where the lawyer for this particular WCB client expressed his frustration in repeatedly trying over a 5-month period to get a response from the Appeals Commission after a hearing. And who knows how much longer that would have taken if the client had acted on his own. So I want to ask the minister, does he condone this kind of bureaucratic abuse of injured workers? And if not, what is he going to do about it?
Mr. Speaker, I'm disturbed, I'm upset, and I think it's discouraging that the member would ask such a question. Let me explain. We have an independent appeals commission, a 3-member board. 2 members are from labor and 1 from industry, and they hear the appeals. It takes time to hear these appeals and to find out what the other side of those questions are. When you have a lawyer representing a worker, there's things presented to the appeals commission that the appeals commission have to find out through other sources, whether it's medical information or otherwise. Now, for the honourable member across the way, and he's done this time after time after time, says, first of all, let's make sure this committee is independent. Then he says, Mr. Minister, it's your fault, get involved. Surely you can't have it both ways. I'm ashamed of him.
How about some responsibility and accountability from that minister? He wrote the legislation that created the Appeals Commission. And I want to ask this minister a supplementary question. As the minister responsible for the WCB, given that justice denied is justice, or justice delayed is justice denied, when is he going to give some commitment that workers, when they go to the Appeals Commission, through all that bureaucratic process, will get an answer within 30 days?
Mr. Speaker, he sent the letter over to me, and I received this letter. It's dated April 17th, and when he received it, why did it take him till May the 16th to ask the question? He should now ask this lawyer to give him a copy of the letter he received from the Appeals Commission, when the case has been resolved. You know, I can't tell the Appeals Commission to do it within 30 days. My advice to Workers' Compensation Board and to the Appeals Commission is to do it as quickly, as fairly, as honestly as they can, and that's what they're doing. To say otherwise would be wrong, Mr. Speaker. And for the honourable member to suggest that I should become involved to tell the Appeals Commission what to do, how to do it, and when to do it is wrong.
Honourable member, were you not listening the other day? Edmonton Whitemud.
Mr. Speaker, senior citizens throughout this province are angry and fed up with this government, and rightfully so. Now that same anger is building amongst those persons with disabilities as they learn of this government's plans to take away some of the medical items and supplies that they'd previously received at no charge to them. I wish I could tell the minister exactly what items are being discontinued from that list, but her own people can't tell us, or they won't tell us exactly what those items are, but I'm led to believe that there are dozens and dozens, which can become very costly if a person needs a great number of them during the year. And I realize that some of the expensive type items are being added, which is good. But my question to the minister, why are these expensive type items that are required, why are they being done at the expense of those persons that rely on certain type of medical items that's now going to create them a tremendous hardship?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the question is rather vague because the restructuring of the Aids to Daily Living program has certainly been to try and take off some of the lower cost items and remove the deductible that people under 65 were paying under that program and add some of the higher cost items on at the end. I'm not sure what item the honourable member is referring to. Without that, it's rather difficult to answer his question.
Mr. Speaker, the difficulty is the minister's own departmental people can't tell us which items are being dropped at this time, except there are going to be dozens of items that are going to be dropped. Some of them at a very low cost, but some of them that people may need dozens and dozens of them during the year. My question to the minister, my second question, besides the Premier's Council, which consumer groups did the minister consult with before these changes were made?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the Aids to Daily Living program and the substantial restructuring that we've done. The rule of thumb, if you like, that was used with respect to the low-cost items were those that would be available to an Albertan at less than $150 per year. The honourable member will know that there previously was a deductible on the Aids to Daily Living program of the same amount. That was dropped, and then the cost sharing for those who could afford to pay was for the area up to $500 per year per family. And then beyond that, there would be no cost sharing because the total cost would be borne by the province. If we look at some of the items, we will see there are lists available. If the honourable member is unable to get them, I'd be happy to supply them to him. But certainly we work from a basis of principles. And one of the principles, for example, let's look at an example like incontinence supplies. One of the principles that we used in evaluating the program was to try and promote the use of reusable, recyclable materials as opposed to disposable materials. That is all within the framework of the massive restructuring that's gone on with Aids to Daily Living, the consultation with the Premier's Council, the consultation with people like professional associations with respect to those changes that could be made safely and correctly, were changes that we believe were very, very important in order to make our Aids to Daily Living program now in Alberta one of the most progressive plans outside of the Canada Health Act that exists in any of the provinces.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I understand that the Minister of Agriculture has been negotiating the sale of Lamco over the last several months with the successful bidder, Canada Foods Corporation. Can the Minister please advise the House on the process of these negotiations?
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to advise the House that the successful privatization of Lamco is virtually complete.
Good news. That's good news, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister please comment on the financial return of this sale?
Mr. Speaker, I certainly can with pleasure. After 12 years of operating Lamco, with the accumulated profits that accrued, plus the part of the contribution toward the purchase price, we're got $4.9 million, plus an additional $1.5 million in a vendor loan, which is part of our golden share to ensure that that plant continues to serve the sheep and veal industry.
By the time we pay back the outstanding debt to the Ag Development Corporation that's been on the books since we acquired it, the general revenue will get $3.3 million in cash, and $1.5 million will flow in under the vendor loan over the years to come.
Edmonton Jasper Place. Mr. Speaker, we're probing the shifting sands of the environmental impact assessment policy. In the space of a week, the Minister of the Environment told the Assembly there is an environmental impact assessment on sun pine forest products. He told the Edmonton Journal there is no environmental impact assessment. He told the Red Deer Advocate that no decision has been made. So you take your pick, any position, and he's got it. Yesterday, the project manager of the Swan Hills expansion project stated that the public response to their meetings is so paltry that no public hearings will be required in the project. It makes you wonder why the project manager is in a position to make a statement like that, but will the minister state to the House whether or not he will grant Albertans a formal EIA and public hearings through the Natural Resources Conservation Board on the Swan Hills expansion?
Well, first of all, I never talked to the Red Deer Advocate. I really didn't talk to the Red Deer Advocate. Absolutely, right. Maybe the honourable member was talking to the Red Deer Advocate and got himself a little mixed up. But with respect to the Swan Hills expansion, Mr. Speaker, I've indicated to the Alberta Special Waste Management Corporation that that this is a project that would be submitted to the Natural Resources Conservation Board.
I should clarify that I believe it was his department that said to the advocate no decision has been made. Oh, okay, so the department has one position, the minister has a different position, the minister has two positions, and the department has yet another position. Will the minister confirm that there will be public hearings through the NRCB process on the Swan Hills expansion?
Well, that's exactly my point, Mr. Speaker. You know, the honourable member says I was talking to the Red Deer Advocate. I wasn't talking to the Red Deer Advocate. The honourable member said that I said this. Then he finally says, no, it wasn't the minister who said this. It was someone in the department who said this. Well, listen, honourable member, because I'm going to tell you. What I said to the Alberta Special Waste Management Corporation is simply that this project will go to the NRCB. Are you satisfied?
Thank you, Honourable Minister, but I'm afraid you're not supposed to ask questions of the opposition. Orders of the day, might we revert briefly to introduction of special guests?